The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will kindly retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will please stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Todd McClure, Centerville Baptist Church, South Boston. Reverend McClure, welcome.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, I thank you, Lord, for this day, a beautiful day that you have given to us here in January. And Father, we thank you, Lord, for our lives and what a gift they are from you. And Father, I thank you, Lord, for these senators here today. Father, thank you, Lord, for giving them a desire to serve in this capacity, and not only the desire, but also the ability. And so, Father, I pray today that you would guide them. I pray, Father, that you would give them wisdom, give them understanding, and give them discernment as they make decisions. And Father, I pray, Lord, that you would protect them, protect their families. And Father, I pray, Lord, that you would guide us in this day. We love you. God bless you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen.
The clerk will please call the roll. All those present will vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Wednesday, January 25th, 2017.
The senior senator from Bath County, Senator Deeds, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1, Rule 36, 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1, Rule 36, 1. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the House. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move that we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The time has come to recognize visitors to our gallery and take up other matters for the morning hour. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteff.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Today, I'd like to introduce the VBRLTA, the Virginia Beach Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. They're here at the Capitol today to represent their industry and provide a strong, unified voice for tourism. They're meeting with legislators today to discuss the importance of tourism in our economy and in our state. We're happy to have them and join us today, and I'm pleased to introduce them, and let's give them a warm welcome of the General Assembly.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the RLTA please rise if you're with us? Thank you all so much for making the trip, and thanks for what you do to contribute to tourism in the Commonwealth. It's a large part of our economy, so we appreciate you keeping that going for us. And thanks for making the trip up here. We wish you safe travels. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the RLTA the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Russell County, Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today in the gallery, we have a group of individuals from beautiful Tazewell County. Tazewell County is part of my district, and it is the neighboring county to the county that I reside in, Russell County. They're here today to visit with the legislators and other agencies in an effort for economic development and to further the interests of the region and Southwest Virginia. And tonight we have a legislative reception that I would encourage all of the legislators to come to if you have the opportunity. I know you've received invitations, and we're hoping to have a good time, and hopefully you can come too, Mr. President. And at this time, I would ask that the Senate join me in giving the warm welcome to all of our leaders and our Board of Supervisors members that we have here from Tazewell County.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Board of Supervisors and leadership from Tazewell County please rise? It's great seeing you all again this year, and thanks for making the trip. And just as the good senator from Russell said, we always look forward to your visit here and your reception this evening. So I will be there and joining you. Good company, good food, so we appreciate that. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering the Board of Supervisors and leadership from Tazewell County the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, in the gallery today is former Senator William Wampler, my favorite senator, and probably your all's. I know Stanley, the gentleman from Franklin, it's his favorite senator, but it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you today in the gallery former Senator Wampler that's made the trip from Southwest Virginia up here to see all of his former colleagues and friends, and he's a great asset of knowledge for me and many of my colleagues back home, and I'd like for you to give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Would Senator William Wampler please rise? William, thanks so much for making the trip back. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman. Is he coming back with us? Oh, okay. Senator Norman, I'm going to give you the floor. I was going to give you the floor I thought you wanted to make a couple of comments about our esteemed colleague.
Well, I did, but even when Senator Wampler was my seatmate, he was always causing calamities, and so I thought I'd spill the soup in his honor on it. I had the pleasure for a number of years of being Senator Wampler's seatmate, and he truly has been one of the most outstanding senators, I think, in the tenure that I've been here in the Senate of Virginia. One of the areas that he had a vast amount of knowledge on, which has continued to challenge all of us, and especially Senator Hanger, who now does Health and Human Resources, is that Senator Wampler really was our resource on HHR and thoroughly grasped that. He obviously was a tireless advocate of Southwest Virginia, and even though he may comparatively be diminutive in size, he had the vigor and enthusiasm to advocate tirelessly on behalf of Southwest Virginia. Senator Carrico has made up in size for what he may otherwise lack on it, but it is indeed a pleasure to have my good friend Senator Wampler back with us today, and I would just say to him in somewhat of a nostalgic area, while I love the current senator from that area of Virginia, I truly miss his presence in the Senate of Virginia.
Thank you, Senator. And Senator, if you don't mind, if you would rise again, and thank you for being here. You can stay seated, but thank you. Senator, we'll get to the applause in just a second, but you have been a friend and a mentor to many of us in the Senate, and we appreciate what you did for us and what you've done for the Commonwealth of Virginia and also for the great Southwest. So thanks for being here, and look forward to visiting with you. I'd ask the members of the Senate in the gallery to please join me in offering Senator William Wampler the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Our opening invocation this morning came from the Reverend Todd McClure from Centerville Baptist Church from South Boston. He is in the gallery with his wife, Kelly. I ask you to give them both a warm welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Would Reverend Todd McClure and Kelly McClure please rise? Thank you all so much for making the trip from South Boston, and thanks for helping us get off to a good start this afternoon in our session. What a wonderful message you gave us, and we appreciate that and wish you safe travels. I would ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Reverend Todd McClure and his wife Kelly McClure the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for 2 introductions.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, in the gallery today, we have members of the Virginia affiliate of the American College of Nurse Midwives. Nurse midwives are registered nurses with 2 years of graduate education at accredited schools. Core competencies of nurse midwifery practice must be met prior to taking a national certification exam. Certification by the American Midwifery Certification Board is required prior to licensure in Virginia. In 2013, there were 102,147 births in Virginia, and 7.22% of those were by certified nurse midwives. Over 85% of certified nurse midwives are employed by physicians and their practices. Mr. President, I would ask that the Senate give them a warm Senate welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Virginia affiliate of American College of Nurse Midwives please rise? Well, you all are well represented today. Who's delivering the babies while you all are here? So we appreciate you being here today to advocate for what you work for every day, and we thank you for all the work that you do across the Commonwealth. And just so you know, a midwife delivered one of our children, and it was a great experience. So we appreciate all your good work, and thanks for being here. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering the midwives the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the gallery also today, we have Mrs. Julianne Codd. In 2016, Mrs. Codd was recognized as a Virginia Lottery super teacher. She is an 8th grade earth and physical science teacher at Richmond's T.C. Bashaw Middle School. She was recognized for her dedication to making science hands-on and realistic for her students. Her dedication doesn't end at the school bell. She spends countless hours engaged in after-school programs with her students. I was so honored to have an opportunity to meet with her briefly before coming to the assembly today. But Mr. President, on behalf of the junior and senior citizens of Richmond City and we ask that you give them a warm Senate welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Would Julianne Codd and Paula Otto, if you're with us, please rise. Well, welcome to the gallery today, and thanks for all of the great work, and thanks for being a wonderful teacher and making sure that our children have access to a world-class education. We appreciate that. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Ms. Julianne Codd and Paula Otto the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Accomack County, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, rise for the purpose of introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, today visiting with us in the gallery is Dr. Noel Gabriel. Noel is the vice chairman of the Norfolk School Board, having been appointed as a member of the school board and then having won re-election as a member of the first elected school board for the city of Norfolk. In addition to her busy professional life as a physician, Noel is doing yeoman's work in the cause of advancing public education on the Norfolk School Board. And so I'm very pleased to have her here today with us, and she's accompanied by her brother-in-law, Nate Kinnison. So I hope the body will give her a very warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would Dr. Gabriel and Nate please rise if you're with us? Great to see you. It's always good to see another pediatrician amongst us, and thanks for all the work that you do at the Children's Hospital and also the work that you do for our school board in Norfolk. So thanks for being here, and we wish you safe travels. Tell everybody back in Norfolk we said hi. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Dr. Noel Gabriel, Vice Chairman of our Norfolk School Board, and her friend Nate the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. With us in the gallery today are leaders of the Civic Leadership Institute in the class of 2017. They are visiting the Capitol today to meet with the governor and other members of the executive team and to learn more about the legislative process. The Civic Leadership Institute is a prestigious core of regional leaders committed to creating a brighter future for the Hampton Roads community through regional collaboration. Now an organization of more than 600 executive-level leaders at work in Hampton Roads and throughout the country. Civics alumni serve in elective office and on boards and commissions, strengthening our regional institutions and bringing high-level strategic expertise to a variety of critical regional initiatives. Civics founders include the late Joshua P. Darden, who helped in the power of regional relationships to forge regional results. The organization's members are successful executive-level leaders and promising emerging leaders in the corporate, military, entrepreneurial, educational, and nonprofit arenas. As a civic class of 2003 graduate, it is my honor to introduce to you Kathy Lewis, Sarah Jane Kirkland, and Kristen Spitz, and the members of the 2017 class of the Civic Leadership Institute. Please extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Well, thank you, Senator. Would members from the Civic Leadership Institute please rise? Thank you all for making the trip here, and thanks for being here to see how policy is made and advocating for what your values and principles are. And I'd also just like to take a quick, brief period of time to recognize Kathy Lewis. Kathy, what a leader you've been in our community, and for those of you that listen to hearsay, that's the Kathy Lewis, and we enjoy that. And again, you just inform our community in so many ways, and we thank you for your leadership. So I would ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Civic Leadership Institute the warm welcome of the Senate. The Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction, please.
The Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I'd like to welcome representatives from the Home Educators Association of Virginia. And with them today is Director of Development, Kevin Heft, who's in the gallery today. Our Commonwealth has a rich tradition of home education with many notable Virginians who were educated at home, such as George Washington, Patrick Henry, Robert E. Lee, and Booker T. Washington. And I might also add the Chase children. As we speak, there are almost 40,000 homeschoolers in Virginia. These students come from a diverse array of backgrounds and economic conditions and utilize a variety of customized education methods, including online tutors and traditional homeschooling. Today is a very special day for these homeschoolers because today is the Home Educators Association of Virginia's annual day at the Capitol, where parents and their students come to our storied Capitol to learn more about their state government. I, for one, this is how I first got involved with politics and learn about my government. And I, for one, am so proud of these young, civically engaged Virginians and would like to welcome them.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Home Educators Association of Virginia please rise? Thank you all for being with us this afternoon, and we're blessed in the Commonwealth to have so many educational options, and we appreciate what you do to advocate for the option of homeschooling. Very important. So we appreciate you being here today, and we hope you have a wonderful afternoon in Mr. Jefferson's Capitol. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Home Educators Association of Virginia the warm welcome of the Senate. The Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Can you hear me? Okay, there we go. I also have a second introduction. Today, I'd like to recognize the hard work of my team of interns who have put in a lot of hours and effort into making this a successful session for my office. We have Madison Harry, who has attended VCU, Will Fahrenholt, who graduated from VCU this year, and Daniel Whitehead, who attends Randolph-Macon College. And finally, Will Hussar and Maya Vergara, who both attend VCU. We thank them for helping me out this session.
Thank you, Senator. Would Senator Chase's staff and interns please rise? There you are, right on the front row. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for all the great work you do to help Senator Chase. We couldn't carry out our mission without help from folks like you, and it's also a great way for you all to learn and see how things are done in the Capitol here in Richmond. So we appreciate your help, and we wish you best in your endeavors. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Senator Chase's staff, our interns, the warm welcome of the Senate. The Senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senator from Spotsylvania and myself, Mr. President, I'd like to bring to the attention to the members the presence in the gallery of the folks from Germanna Community College. There are quite a few students here with Dr. Wesley. Dr. Sam was here earlier. I don't know if he's in the gallery with us, but I had the opportunity to meet with them, spend some time with them this morning. They're part of our community college system, and I will tell you, in the Fredericksburg region, they do a great job, an absolutely great job, and they give a lot of young people a great opportunity to get not just a 2-year degree, but to move on and get a 4-year degree as well. So I would ask that you give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I will. Thank you, Senator. Would members from Germanna Community College please rise? You all are well represented here this afternoon. And just as the Senator said, we have 23 great community colleges across the Commonwealth. We're very proud of all 23 and appreciate what they do to contribute to workforce development that leads to economic development and jobs for the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we're glad you're here today to advocate for the community colleges and wish you the best in your education endeavors. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Germanna Community College the warm welcome of the Senate. The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, today in the gallery we have representatives from Virginians for the Arts who are here today participating in their Arts Advocacy Day here at the Capitol. Over 100 arts advocates from all across the Commonwealth have traveled to the General Assembly today to visit with their legislators, and they are doing a great job advocating on behalf of the arts. And I ask that we offer them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I will. Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Virginians for the Arts please rise? Thank you all for being here today. And I think I talked to a couple of you earlier, but when you hear people talk about STEM, make sure they add that A and include STEAM, and that's where really the jobs of the future are in the 21st century. So the arts are such an important part of our education experience and process. So thanks for being here to advocate today. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Virginians for the Arts the warm welcome of the Senate. Is there a senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate and those in the gallery today, I have the great honor of introducing some great people who are working very hard for New College Institute in the city of Martinsville. You have already heard me talk about New College and how much it means to us in that region, and also what we're trying to do to transform it into a world-class educational institution offering an education that is not offered anywhere else of the kind or type in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we are having today our board meeting. I'm the chairman. They blessed me with the honor of being the chairman of the board. And so today, up in the gallery, we have some of the finest people, not only members of the board, but also our great staff at New College. And so, Mr. President, if I may introduce to you our board members, Bob Berger, Tanya Foreman, Dr. Weldon Hill, Naomi Hodge-Muse, Trenny Tweedy, and Janice Wilkins. And also, Mr. President, if you would also welcome Dr. Leanna Blevins. She is our executive director. Melanie Ingram, Christina Reed, and Mandy McGee. And, Mr. President, I couldn't do what I'm doing without those very important people that are standing right there. So if you would, for me, extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I will. Thank you, Senator. And do you need to be excused to attend a board meeting?
Yes, sir. Actually, I need to get up there right away, if you don't mind.
Thank you. To members from the New College Institute, thank you all so much for being here. And I have toured, and just wonderful work that you all are doing again, contributing to workforce development in your area, the Commonwealth. So thanks for being here today, and you have a great leader in Senator Stanley. We tend to nudge each other a little bit, but we love him, and he's doing great work here for the Commonwealth. So thanks for being here. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the New College Institute the warm welcome of the Senate. Senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Sorry, it's Green Street magically appeared in front of me a minute ago. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, joining us in the gallery today, we have Leadership Fairfax with us today. Leadership Fairfax is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. It's a wonderful organization that develops all kinds of leaders in Fairfax County. They have meetings with public officials all over the county. I've attended several of their bipartisan sessions. We have a couple of very notable alumni out of Leadership Fairfax, including Fairfax County Executive Ed Long, the former police chief, now Deputy County Executive Dave Rohrer, our current Sheriff Stacy Kincaid, Delegate Eileen Fillercorn, this Cabinet Secretary guy named Bill Hazel, I think we all know. They're a wonderful organization, develops excellent leadership in Northern Virginia. I would hope that the Senate could give them a warm welcome in the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from Leadership Fairfax please rise? Thank you all for making the trip down 95 to be with us today, and thanks for all that you do for leadership up in Fairfax, up in Northern Virginia. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Leadership Fairfax the warm welcome of the Senate. Is there any other business for the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will please call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Thursday, January 26, 2017. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm improving. I got the microphone out without putting the Italian wedding soup on the floor anymore. I would respectfully move that all the Senate bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 1 through 3, including Senate Bill 919 through Senate Bill 1465, be placed on their final passage in the block. If any senator desires to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 3, Senate Bill 919 through Senate Bill 1465, be placed upon their final passage in the block with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will please read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 919.
Mr. President.
Senator from Rockingham.
I'd ask that to come out of the block and by for the day. I'm having a floor amendment drawn for that.
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 919 will come out of the block and by for the day.
Senate Bill 1216. Senate Bill 1006, Senate Bill 1273, Senate Bill 1377, Senate Bill 1465.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? That is, all bills except for Senate Bill 919 on page 1. All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 816, a bill relating to grand larceny and certain property crimes threshold.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this bill is a bill that you've seen several times now. We've passed it out of here, I think, about 3 or 4 years in a row now. Last year it came out of here 29 to 11. It's basically a bill that raises the misdemeanor felony threshold from $200, which is the lowest in the United States of America, up to $500. It's a widely supported bill and needed. There was a couple amendments made to it in committee to narrow it down to only larceny crimes. and not a lot of other crimes it originally had. And I would hope the body would pass the bill and enact it into law.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 816 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 8.
Ayes 32, noes 8. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 825, a bill relating to new sentencing hearing of abolition of parole.
The junior senator from Loudoun, Senator Wexton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass. And speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Virginia, we are one of only a handful of states where the Commonwealth can request a jury as well as the defendant can, and where the juries actually recommend a sentence for people who have been convicted of felony crimes. In 1995, we abolished parole in favor of truth in sentencing, and the problem with that is that we weren't then truthful with the juries who were doing the sentencing. Judges routinely refused instructions that said that parole had been abolished, and juries were left to speculate about what would happen after they pronounced their sentences. So it wasn't until 2000 in Fishback versus Commonwealth when the Virginia Supreme Court said that it defied reason that that this information would be withheld from juries just as they were performing a significant and appropriate appropriate information when they were performing this vital function. So from that point forward, judges had to instruct juries that parole had been abolished and that offenders would end up serving a vast majority of their time. But we were left with 5 years of defendants who had not been instructed. And the problem was that the Court of Appeals made its decision prospective, not retrospective. So the vast majority of those offenders who still remain in prison are in there for violent offenses. This bill does not apply to them. This bill applies to those who were convicted of nonviolent felonies between January 1st, 1995 and 2000, where the jury was not instructed about the abolition of parole and who are presently incarcerated for their offense. That's about 11 people. And what they would get is they would be able to petition for a new sentencing hearing in the original circuit court where the case had been held. The courts messed up when they applied truth in sentencing. It's up to us in the legislature to fix that. And this bill gives us an opportunity to get that process started. So, Mr. President, I again renew my motion that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, speaking of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I just want to draw your attention to a couple of issues with respect to this bill. First of all, the courts were truthful with the juries. The courts told the juries what the sentencing range was. When we were not being truthful was when we had sentencing ranges and people had no idea how much of the time was going to be suspended or was going to be actually served. And, so first of all, the courts were truthful with the juries. They told them what the sentencing range was for these people who were convicted of these crimes. Second thing that I want to point out is that while the court did address this issue, it did not require us to do what this bill is doing. It does not require and did not require, as some other constitutional decisions have, us to go back and revise the sentences for these people. And we have had cases in which the courts have required us to go back and revisit prosecutions, and this is not one of those situations. The third thing I want to point out is that many of these are convictions that are 20-plus years old, and the victims are no longer either around or may not be able to be tracked down. And quite frankly, there is just no way that this is going to practically work. There's no way that anybody can adequately stand up and protect the rights of victims with respect to going back and revisiting sentences in 20-plus-year-old cases. I appreciate what the gentlelady is trying to do, but I just respectfully submit that this is not a prudent way of addressing this.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Western Fairfax County, Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ran a different version of this bill trying to get at the same solution that the junior senator from Loudoun has here today. And I was presented with someone who presented a situation that took place here in the Commonwealth where the jury was not given much information about sentencing. And someone on the jury said, well, I know how this works. They only have to do 25% of their time, was what he told his other jurors. And I think they all agreed that this person ought to get about 10 years. So I said, well, let's give him 40 years. And that way he'll only have to do 10. He'll be eligible for parole. And if he does well, that'll be great. Well, unfortunately, 40 meant 40. And that's what this individual got. It wasn't transparent. It isn't justice. And I realize and I appreciate the gentleman from Rockingham bringing up the fact that there are some technical issues here. But, you know, I always grew up, and my parents always told me, when you mess something up, you fix it. We messed this up badly. And this is a small measure to provide justice to these individuals, and I'd urge you to support the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 825 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 18.
Ayes 22, noes 18. The bill passes.
Mr. President. Well,
the senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed Senate Bill 816, I would ask that that bill please be reconsidered.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 816 was passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having previously explained the bill, unless there's some new questions, I'd move the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, does Senate Bill 816 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 28, noes 12.
Ayes 28, noes 12. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 862, a bill relating to driving after forfeiture of license.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass. And speaking to that bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill is, I think it's pretty simple, and I viewed it as kind of a code cleanup bill. Basically, what happens right now, if you're convicted of driving while intoxicated, you forfeit your license. And usually the court gives you a restricted license. Not always, but usually. And if you violate the terms of that restricted license, or you drive when you had a DUI and you don't have a restricted license, there's a statute they charge you under 18.2272. And right now, that statute makes it illegal to drive even if you're not on a highway. And the problem that creates is there's lots of motor vehicles you can drive that aren't on a highway, like you're riding lawnmower in your front yard, or like a golf cart on a golf course, or a forklift in a factory. And on our regular driving on suspended statute, you have to be on a highway. And so all this does is adds the on a highway requirement to the DUI revocation statute to make them consistent. And that's the bill. I would hope the body pass the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 862 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 28, noes 11.
Ayes 28, noes 11. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1047, a bill relating to DCJS training standards, community engaged policing.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the bill. Senate Bill 1047 is DCJS training standards. It sets up community engagement policing and expands the responsibility of the Department of Criminal Justice Services regarding community policing by requiring the compulsory training standards for basic training and recertification of law enforcement officers to include fair and impartial policing, verbal de-escalation, and needs of special populations. The bill changes the term community policing to community engaged policing. And again, I renew my motion to have the bill passed.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1047 pass? All in favor of the motion record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 18.
Ayes 22, noes 18. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1091, a bill relating to marijuana offenses, driver's license forfeiture.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a bill that the senator from Franklin and I jointly chief co-patroned. It mirrors a bill that we passed last year with one distinction. Currently, under existing law, you lose your driver's license, or a marijuana defendant loses their driver's license for 6 months after the offense. This would provide for judicial discretion in whether or not they lose the license. It is supported by the Commonwealth attorneys, and it will lessen some of the 38,849 times a year that Virginians lose their license for drug offenses. All the states that border Virginia do not suspend their licenses for drug offenses, as do the overwhelming majority of other states. With that, I move that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the measure.
The senator has the floor.
As the chief co-patron, I want to, of course, thank my other chief co-patron for this. Look, as an attorney who practices all the time, too often what we see in these situations, and I've had judges tell me this over and over, is that some young kid has got marijuana on him, not near a car anywhere, and as part of the 251 punishment, that is first offender status, where we take the case under advisement, they do community service, they attend VASAP, they pay a large fine. They do all those things, and if they're successful and complete that and are drug-free and screen clean at the end of that period of time, then the charge is dismissed. But the one thing that is unrelated and does not correct behavior is the suspension of their license for 6 months. And then they can be granted a restricted license. And that restricted license, as you know, and the same as a DUI, is to and from work, to and from VASAP, to and from church. It doesn't allow you to go to the grocery store. It doesn't allow you to go see your mom. It is very restrictive. And on top of that, Mr. President, when you get your license suspended, as you would know, and some of you may know, most of you I hope don't know, your insurance not only skyrockets, but you usually have to have what's called an SR-22, proof of insurance, and if you get reinsured, then it's a higher rate. And it stays on your record for nothing that had anything to do with driving. Now, the origins of all of this was that way back in the 80s when the federal government was getting tough on the war on drugs, there was, I think, a congressman or senator who put in the Transportation Act that said that federal dollars would only be received by states, who then agreed to suspend licenses upon drug convictions. Drug convictions. The art of the 18.2-251 disposition is that there is no initial conviction. There is a finding of sufficiency of guilt. The case is taken under advisement. Sometimes the defendant pleads guilty. Sometimes the defendant doesn't plead guilty. But they stipulate the facts that would be sufficient to find them guilty. The case is continued. There is no conviction. Because what we're trying to do in this very good statute is give somebody the opportunity of a second chance for making a dumb mistake. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you know as well as I do, and especially Mr. President, that these kind of convictions can affect their very ability to get a job. So for those reasons...
Would the gentleman for Franklin yield for a question?
Thank you, Senator. Would the gentleman yield for a question?
He's the majority leader. I have no choice.
Yield, Senator.
Mr. President, knowing what a student he is of the law and how astute he is on reading not just the law but the calendar, can you tell me how many negative votes there were against this in committee, sir?
The senator from Franklin County.
Mr. Chairman, I would answer the gentleman from James City by saying, although there was only one negative vote in committee, I like unanimity here. And for that is why I stand and speak. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Does that complete your discussion, Senator?
I think it does. I think I've said what I wanted to say. Thank you, Mr. President.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 1091 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The bill passes. The junior senator from Virginia Beach.
Mr. President, have voting on the prevailing side of Senate Bill 862, I'd request we reconsider it.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 872 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their
Mr. President, if I may, that was Senate Bill 862.
Yes, 862. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having previously explained the bill, I'd move the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 862 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 29, noes 11.
Ayes 29, noes 11. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1298, a bill relating to possession or distribution of marijuana for medical purposes exceptions.
The senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage of the bill and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The members of this body will remember that in 2015, we passed a bill that would have allowed, or that does allow, for CBD oil to be prescribed for people who have a very, very narrow need for CBD oil for an epilepsy that at the time many of you had heard from constituents around the Commonwealth of Virginia who had a very rare seizure disorder for which CBD oil seemed to be the only treatment. And the members of this body and the members of the House were persuaded almost unanimously. I think this body voted 37-2 and the House voted 96-0 to allow CBD oil to be used for those patients. And it has proved to be remarkable and transformative for young people who were born entirely healthy, who suffered this seizure disorder and then were rendered almost incapable of function. And that CBD oil proved to be life-saving for them. What my bill seeks to do is expand the use of CBD oil for other very, very severe disorders that are on parity with that kind of a seizure disorder. I want to be clear, this is not a medical marijuana bill. This is a CBD oil bill. CBD oil does not have any psychotropic effects. It cannot make you high. It is not something that is dealt on the illicit market. You cannot smoke it. It is a compound, though, that has been proven to have many, many medical benefits. And so if you are someone who suffers from Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, or MS, or you have cancer, and you are in need of palliative care, this compound has been proven to have true medical benefits. Now, for those who are in opposition to the use of CBD oil, they will say, well, you know what? We only were willing to allow it in that one narrow circumstance because we were told that there was no other compound or drug that could be prescribed that actually worked. Well, that may be a good argument, but for people who have suffered from some of these other diseases, they have said in the course of their efforts to lobby on behalf of CBD oil that while there are other drugs that work, they have profoundly devastating side effects that make them horribly sick, and that CBD oil does not. And that it has not only does it lack side effects, but it also has really healing properties, and it has beneficial It benefits some of the other negative side effects of the other drugs they take from chemotherapy and other drugs. And so there has been some quibbling over the breadth of a list. Some people said, nope, it should just be for cancer. Or no, it should just be for Crohn's disease. But if you have somebody in your family with a debilitating genetic disorder or dying a painful death from one of these diseases, which one are you going to pick? And that was my struggle. Of the list that was presented to me, which one was I going to pick? Is MS somehow more legitimate than Lou Gehrig's disease? Is Lou Gehrig's disease more legitimate than cancer? If CBD oil is not a harm to the community, if there's no public health or public safety risk, if no one's going to get high and no one's going to deal it, then why should I say, nope, it should just be Crohn's? So I understand that for those of us in this body who have strong feelings on one side or the other, this debate is not going to change your mind. But for those friends of mine whom I have seen suffer from painful, debilitating genetic disorders or from long and painful deaths from cancer, whom I believe knew that there were or would have been real benefits from CBD oil or even other things that are, not available to us today, I feel really strongly that this is something that this body should consider. So with that, I would move that the body pass the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, speaking of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, last year we did have a discussion about CBD oil, and I voted for that bill. And I've typically been reluctant to vote for bills like that and bills like this. But last year, what we had was a prolonged debate and discussion about the issue and about intractable epilepsy. And we had a significant amount of scientific evidence that was presented to the Courts of Justice Committee, significant peer-reviewed material that was brought to the General Assembly and shown to us with respect to the impact of CBD oil on intractable epilepsy. Now, I was born at night, but not last night. Now, I understand that winds are blowing in this country. I predict that in 5 years, maybe, we're going to decriminalize marijuana, maybe sooner if certain people in here get studies moving along. But the issue here is, are we going to be responsible about how we do it or not? This year, this bill came to us in the Courts of Justice Committee. And those of you who are there will attest to the fact that there was not one single witness that came and testified in conjunction with this. Not one piece of scientific evidence, not one peer-reviewed article, not one person who came and indicated that CBD oil is an effective treatment for these items. I don't know. I don't know whether it is or not. And I certainly appreciate the efforts of the gentlelady from Fauquier, but I don't see any peer-reviewed articles that she's written either. And I would respectfully submit that this list includes small, poorly developed nails. We're going to give people the affirmative defense for possession of and use of CBD oil for that. Maybe it is appropriate. Maybe it is a good treatment. But I want to read to you a couple of things. In 2016, in August of this past year, the Obama DEA took a look at marijuana, the continuing effort to take a look at it and look at its derivatives, its extracts. And what they said was that they determined that they were not going to reschedule marijuana from a Schedule I category. And in making that announcement, they said that there are no currently accepted medical uses. The agency, though, did say that it was going to change the policy with respect to marijuana, its derivatives, and its extracts so that we could develop the research necessary to make these determinations in an orderly fashion. And what they did was that they changed the regulations, expanded the number of places that could grow marijuana, and expanded the ability to conduct studies on its value for chronic pain relief, and that's the way we ought to be making policy. We ought not be simply throwing in every condition that we can think of just because it might help. I don't know whether it's going to help or not. I mean, this is not our job as legislators. We ought not be making these decisions on the fly. We ought not be deciding, we're going to do this in this fashion. Last year, we did it only after mature deliberation and with great reluctance. And now we're going to add small, poorly developed nails to the list of items for which we're going to allow the use of this extract. So, maybe it's good, maybe it's appropriate, but there's been nothing given to us to indicate that we really ought to be making this policy decision. I'd urge the body to vote no.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the measure.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I do not disagree with anything that was said by the lady who has introduced the measure. I think all of her points are valid. However, last year when we did the epilepsy bill, I voted for it with trepidation because I spoke to others and I said, you know what? I said, next year we're going to have a half a dozen bills come in for marijuana. And here we are, we got half a dozen bills coming in for marijuana. We passed this. Next year, we're going to have bills coming in that will not be strictly medical marijuana, but they will be the full out weed. And I've been around long enough to have watched this whole thing play out before. When I went to Vietnam, nobody in many neighborhoods, people didn't even know what marijuana was. They didn't know what cocaine was. They didn't know what heroin was. They might have heard some rumor about it, but it just was not something that was common. By the time I got back, I remember one of the things that really stunned me is driving down the street, down the road at 1 o'clock in the morning, and every 16-year-old girl's thumbing by the road, and I suspect there are 10,000 of them buried in pine forests, different places. Drugs had taken over. People had begun to lose their sense of responsibility. And in the military, I will tell you, I was stunned. I had been in the Marines, got out, got an accounting degree, went to law school, went into the Army JAG Corps, and it was a mob. I mean, it was not an army. It was a mob. And a major reason that it was a mob was because everybody was on pot. We had an army of potheads. People were, it wasn't just pot. There was LSD, there was cocaine, but pot was the biggest thing. And we had just simply had a collapse of good order and discipline. Same thing had happened in factories around the country. And it wasn't until we started instituting urinalysis tests for marijuana that we began to restore the order within the United States. So it's kind of a long explanation, but I'm just going to tell you the reason that I oppose it is not for any of the reasons where I disagree with the lady from Fauquier, but because I know where we're headed. I can see a slippery slope when I'm cascading down it rapidly, and I do not want to see this country go back where it was in the 60s and the 70s, because believe me, it was not pretty. It was the worst of all times that I have lived through, and I just don't want to see it again. And I think that proceeding down this route takes us in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator
You know, Mr. President, he must have been in a different army than I was in. I don't remember in the 2 years I was in, of which 19 was overseas, of anybody smoking pot, okay? Beer and brawls every weekend, okay? I told people I was on a first-name basis with the police in Augsburg and the MPs. But let me tell you, they weren't smoking pot. But more to the point, this is not what the senator from Fauquier County has introduced is not something that can be turned into a hallucinogenic, which pretty much discounts everything you heard from the past two speakers, okay? We've had plenty of bills where nobody showed up to testify. And as far as putting in bills of which we don't have any, there's no one showed up or we're heading in new territory, I noticed from some of the bills that have been put in this year, last year, and for the last 8 to 10 years, the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against these bills time and time again doesn't seem to slow anybody down from putting them in every year. And if this bill can help, and keep in mind, this is not, you're not smoking marijuana. And by the way, I might mention, seems to me that 3 of the last 4 presidents publicly admitted that they had smoked pot, although one claimed that he didn't inhale. But I don't think there's anybody who believes that. But anyway, and God only knows about the current occupant of the White House. But let me just tell you, it's not a hallucinogenic, and if this can help one person, just one person, I mean, who are we to tell these people, no, you can't get help? And speaking of the FDA, this is a problem that they should have solved more than a decade and a half ago. I mean, this should have been over and done with by now. And I don't know why they keep sitting on this thing when they have all the evidence in, okay? Let me repeat that. They have all the evidence. They've had it for some time, but they've never taken that step. This is not a product that can be turned into a hallucinogenic. This is not going. We're not going to become a nation of potheads because people with MS and a variety of other ailments are using this type of oil. So I would hope that you all would listen to what the senator from Fauquier said and vote for the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak in favor of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
I think in addition to all the information the ladies and gentlemen of the Senate have received thus far, I think we need to keep in mind that we are suffering from an opioid overuse. Some would even call it a crisis. And there is the Center for Addictions Research, which has done a lot of research on the cannabinoid oil. And they concluded that if, in fact, you would allow the use of what we would call THC oil that this drug allows for medical purposes that have been outlined in this drug, you would have a 64% lower usage of drugs that would have some type of opiates in them. And in my mind, that is a public health benefit. When you see all the bills that have come forward in this General Assembly trying to deal with that crisis, the opioid crisis, and we have this option, I don't know why we would not pursue it. And then I guess I would say to the senior senator from Loudoun, we actually all the time, when we create legislation, put boxes around whatever we're permitting or prohibiting. So we can, in fact, control slippery slopes. I mean, that's what lawmakers do. And from my brief period in the Senate, I've seen us do it pretty effectively. So having said that, I'm proud to co-patron this bill, and I would ask that the Senate approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
So I cannot prophesize what will become legal and what will not, and what the FDA will and will not approve, although we have reasonable expectation that they are about to reschedule cannabidiol oil, which is exactly what we're talking about. But I would suggest to this body that some of the strain in this situation is the attempt for us as legislators, to discern for what certain chemicals should be used. That's really in the realm of medicine. And the evidence and the studies, which do exist, they don't have the weight that we would like them to, because this has not been a legalized substance. So in some of the states that have legalized it in their state, data is beginning to come in, and it is extremely promising. But I would say that the way to look at this piece of legislation is that last year we heard rigorous testimony that CDB oil and THC oil was not detrimental, that it had medical value, that it did not cause psychogenic effects, and that it was safe to use, so safe that we have empowered a pharmacy in our state to compound it and dispense it. And I would suggest we should leave to the doctors for what it should be used, and I hope that you will support this bill.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sitting here and I'm reading, and I'm trying to understand what's going on about this. When the senator said that there has not been any proof, there's no problem. And I'm saying then Senator Oberchain says there's no proof of this or that. Then I wonder how many of you have watched on TV. When there's a commercial come on TV, it says that I have an earache. And it says it will take care of the earache. But side effects, you could get dizzy, diarrhea, blind, you get a heart attack. 20 things or more they said that could happen to you, but your ear can be okay, but you can die. So, and I'm trying to understand that if that's the case, then the senator says that it works on one particular case, and it could be. Senator Oberchain said it could not be. So if we got something that's been proven that will take out my ear, but it could kill me, I go see my doctor. He cannot guarantee that I won't have a heart attack by seeing him. Let's try it. Get a sister break. Let's try it. It's no side effects. Can happen. It's good. Let's vote for this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1298 pass? All in favor?
Mr. President, if no one else is to speak, I would like to make one last point, because I regret that one comment was made, and I just know that there will be someone who suffers from this disorder who will raise this point, and I feel like I should just address it. To the list of diseases, genetic disorders that are listed in the bill, I want to make the point that these were listed because they are on parity with intractable epilepsy. And one of those is nail patella, which is not known to, I'm sure, most people in this body. And Senator Oberchain was right. It can result in abnormal fingernails. But to be clear, that is not all that it results in. It is a very, very rare but very serious genetic disorder that can result in all kinds of very horrific other symptoms. You can have no kneecaps. You can have something that appears like webbed elbows, horrible renal disease, renal failure. You can die at a very young age, and it is a very serious disorder. And so I did want to just make that clear in case someone who is cared about this bill and suffers from nail patella would raise that. It is a very, very serious genetic disorder. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1298 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 29, noes 11.
Ayes 29, noes 11. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1347, a bill relating to carrying a switchblade knife exception.
The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. To ask the bill pass and speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the body, this is a pretty simple bill. It's taking a switchblade knife out of the code section where they list a bunch of various other implements that can do damage. The reason that this is coming out is technology has changed, as we heard in testimony from the American Tool and Knife Manufacturing Association, that switchblade knives are no longer what maybe the senior senator from Fairfax knows of West Side Story, but more as an implemented tool. As a police officer, I actually carried one because if you're trying to help someone with your left hand and you need to cut a seatbelt with the right hand, as anybody's ever used a buck knife, they're pretty hard to open without using your fingernail and get in there. So it's an automatic way that you can use a tool like this, whether you're a fireman or a roofer, or you're having to hold onto a roof and lay a shingle and cut something. That's what the bill does. There is an amendment in the House on one of the line items when it talks about recreational use for this type of thing that I know the delegate Ware has that says lawful. We'll make that amendment if the bill was successful today over in the House to make sure that's sure to. Mr. President, that's the bill in its entirety.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1347 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 14.
Ayes 26, noes 14. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1474, a bill relating to resisting arrest penalty.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteffe.
Mr. President, I ask the bill pass. Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I want to make sure we've moved the substitute. I think we did that yesterday. So
you're good to go.
Great. What this does is this bill attempts to focus on the lawfully applying the resisting arrest bill. So if somebody's in custody and they try to escape the custody of a law enforcement officer in violation of Virginia Code 18.2, 478, or flees from an officer when they're lawfully under arrest and physical force is applied, then it clarifies what we have currently as resisting arrest. And this was one I started with last year, and then this year we worked with the best and the brightest to tweak it and get it to its position where it is today. So with that, I request the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1474 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The bill passes.
Uncontested.
Mr. President.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you. Having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed Senate Bill 1347, I ask that we reconsider that vote.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 1347 was passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having previously explained 1347, I ask the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1347 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 23, noes 16, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 23, noes 16, Rule 36-1. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar, House Bill on second reading. House Bill 1521, a bill relating to uniform conformity of the Commonwealth's taxation system with the Internal Revenue Code. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would respectfully move that all the Senate bills on the second reading on the uncontested calendar, including all Senate bills on pages 7 through 16, including Senate Bill 798 through Senate Bill 1463, be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments. If any senator desires to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, show all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 7 through 16. Senate Bill 798 through Senate Bill 1463 be engrossed in advance to their third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto. That any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to.
Senate Bill 798, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 875, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 886, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 916, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the committee substitute be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1019, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendments.
The senator from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendments be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1040, reported for the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendments.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1074, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Senate Bill 1102, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendment.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendments.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1136, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Senate Bill 1158, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendments.
The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the committee amendment.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1175, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
The senator from Russell County, Senator Chafin.
Mr. President, I move the substitute.
Question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1186, reported from the Committee on Finance with a substitute.
The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1202, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendments.
The senator from Accomack County, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, move the committee amendments be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1205, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 1217, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Senate Bill 1248, reported from the Committee on Finance with a substitute.
The senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart, you're right on time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1274, reported from the Committee on Finance with a substitute.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1289, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendment.
The senator from Russell County, Senator Chafin.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1369, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 1370, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 1390, reported from the Committee on Finance with a substitute.
The senator from Northern Fairfax County, Senator Howe.
Mr. President, I move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1463, reported from the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed and advanced to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 783, a bill relating to public employment, prohibited discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Reported for the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 793, a bill to waiver of tax penalties for small businesses. Reported from the Committee on Finance.
The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, should the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 812, relating to the Board for Asbestos-Lead and Home Inspectors, home inspections, required information related to yellow-shaded corrugated stainless steel tubing. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Senator from Western Fairfax County, Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. The senator from Western Fairfax.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 822, a bill relating to the Virginia Fair Housing Law, unlawful discriminatory housing practices, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The junior senator from Loudoun, Senator Wexton.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 990, a bill relating to the Commonwealth's goal of reducing the consumption of electric energy. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute.
The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Mr. President, I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. The senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1128, a bill relating to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, failure to respond to requests for records, rebuttable presumption. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteffe.
Mr. President, I request we engross and advance to the third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1171, a bill relating to public employment, inquiries by state agencies and localities regarding criminal convictions, charges, and arrest. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1201, a bill relating to workers' compensation, employer's duty when employee incapable of work. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
The senator from Accomack County, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and advanced on to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1258, a bill relating to conversion of the Virginia Solar Energy Development Authority to the Virginia Solar Energy Development and Energy Storage Authority. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1261, a bill relating to official emblems and designations, George Washington's Rye Whiskey State Spirit. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1268, a bill relating to public hearings held by localities on budgets and tax rate increases. Reported from the Committee on Finance.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1296, a bill relating to county food and beverage tax referendum. Reported from the Committee on Finance.
The senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1320, a bill relating to admissions tax, Washington County. Reported from the Committee on Finance.
The senator from Grayson County, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that we engross the bill and advance it to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1332, a bill relating to official emblems and designations, Song of the Mountains State Television Series. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The senator from Grayson County, Senator Carrico.
Mr. President, I ask that we engross and pass it on to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1400, a bill relating to the definition of illegal gambling and charitable gaming, authorization of poker games, regulation of poker tournaments. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendments.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee amendments be agreed to.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to. The senator from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this was one of 5 bills that I was able to get out of that committee, and I tell you, I don't think they like me too well over there. But this gives a definition of oh, I'm sorry, I already did that. Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1437, a bill relating to the Commonwealth Council on Aging duties. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that this bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now move all the Senate bills on the first reading on both the uncontested and regular calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 22 through 33, including Senate Bill 801 through Senate Bill 1455, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 22 through 33, Senate Bill 801 through Senate Bill 1455, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now move that all the bills be passed by for the day, sir.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar, Senate joint resolutions on first reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would now move that all of the Senate joint resolutions on the first reading on page 34 and 35 of the calendar, including Senate Joint Resolution 307 through Senate Joint Resolution 310, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of the Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 34 through 35, SJR 307 through SJR 310, be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The reading of the titles is waived. The senator from James City County.
Mr. President, I would now ask that all the resolutions be passed by for the day along with the music.
The question is, shall the Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions will go by for the day.
Memorial resolutions.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would now move that all the memorial resolutions on pages 34 and 35 of the calendar excuse me, be placed on their final passage in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolution, with the understanding that any senator who desires to remove one of the resolutions from the block will please do so after the clerk has read the title of that resolution.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the memorial resolutions on pages 35 through 37, SJR 250 through SR 121, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will please read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution 250, celebrating the life of the Honorable Johnny S. Joanna.
Mr. President,
the senator from Northern Chesapeake.
I ask this be removed from the block.
Without objection, SJR 250 will come out of the block.
House Joint Resolution 718, celebrating the life of the Honorable Otha Beverly Roller.
Mr. President.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
I ask that that resolution come out of the block.
Without objection, HJR 718 will come out of the block.
House Joint Resolution 724, celebrating the life of Leslie Gilliam. House Joint Resolution 731, celebrating the life of Anthony Randolph Cook. House Joint Resolution 739, celebrating the life of James Early Wood. House Joint Resolution 740, celebrating the life of Colonel Damon Igor, United States Army, retired. House Joint Resolution 741, celebrating the life of the Honorable Johnny S. Joanna.
Mr. President,
yes, sir.
This be moved from the block.
Without objection, H.R. 741 will come out of the block.
House Joint Resolution 746, celebrating the life of Roger L. Williams. House Joint Resolution 774, celebrating the life of Connie Henry. House Joint Resolution 775, celebrating the life of Eric John Franklin. House Joint Resolution 776, celebrating the life of Kenneth A. Lawrence. House Joint Resolution 777, celebrating the life of Alfred C. Anderson. House Joint Resolution 785, celebrating the life of Achul Chimaladea. Senate Joint Resolution 327, celebrating the life of Dr. Deborah Saunders White. Senate Joint Resolution 337, celebrating the life of Colonel John Betts, United States Air Force, retired. Senate Joint Resolution 338, celebrating the life of the Honorable Charles J. Colgan.
The senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike.
Mr. President, can SJR 338 come out of the block and pass by for the day?
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, SJR 338 will come out of the block and by for the day.
Senate Resolution 108, celebrating the life of Ralph Edmund Stanley. Senate Resolution 121, celebrating the life of Charles C. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The resolutions will be agreed to in the usual manner. That is all except for SJR 250, HJR 718, HJR 741, and SJR 338. All those in favor of the memorial resolutions will please rise. The resolutions are agreed to. On page 35, SJR 250, the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, I would like to remember a man who was a long-time public servant, a husband of Chris, a father of Stephanie, and a grandfather, the Honorable Johnny Joanno. Johnny was a personal friend of mine and my seatmate in the House of Delegates. Johnny was a public servant for over 30 years. He served in the House of Delegates on 2 occasions, from 1975 to 1983. Again, from 1998 to 2016. And in this body, the Senate of Virginia, from 1984 to 1992. Johnny loved his hometown, Portsmouth, Virginia, and the Commonwealth of Virginia also. He was very passionate about his belief, especially the working class of those who needed help. Johnny never let one party completely define his political belief. Rather was led by his heart and his attorney mind in making his own opinion. Johnny was a man of his word. If he gives you his word, he was committed to it. Mr. President, I ask that today that you join me in honoring the memory of our colleagues and friend, the Honorable Johnny S. Joanno.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise to speak in support of the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I came into the House in 2001 and was relatively new to all this business. Johnny Joanno was my seatmate for 4 years. He was the same age as my father and had a lot of the same characteristics, which he gave me a lot of advice. Some of it was right, some of it was wrong. But we became very close friends, and I valued his opinions greatly. When I ran for lieutenant governor, I used to stay at his house, and I used to actually stop at his law office and make phone calls when I was down in Portsmouth. And I remember all the pictures he had up on the wall of the campaigns he had run, working as a campaign manager for Henry Howell, pictures with Doug Wilder, pictures with Chuck Robb. And I was very surprised when I heard that Johnny had died. I didn't even know he was ill. I had actually gone to see him a few weeks previous, and it really struck me. I remember something he said to me, and it's a good piece of advice, especially if you're new to a body. I had gotten discouraged my first year in the House that none of my legislation was passing, and I was mocked sometimes by certain people. And he told me one time, he said, look at all those people out there on the floor of the House. He said, you know what they all have in common? And I said, what? He said, none of them live in your district. And boy, that was a great piece of advice. And I really miss Johnny. He was sui generis. He was his own man, and I hope that we will support this motion.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak in favor of our friend Johnny Joanno. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny was someone who was beloved not only on one side of the aisle, but really on both sides of the aisle. You know, when I started my race to return to the General Assembly and the Senate, I sat down, I made a quick list of people that I considered personal friends, not just political, allies or whatever, but personal friends. And I was really surprised that it almost broke out evenly, Democrat and Republican. And one of those who was right up at the top there was Johnny Joanno. I agree with everything that has been said about him, particularly by the gentleman from northern Chesapeake, who was very, very eloquent in his remarks. Johnny was a kind and decent person. He was very thoughtful in everything that he did, and I think he will be very much missed. And I hope, Mr. President, that when we adjourn in honor of our colleague, Johnny S. Joanno.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the resolution will please rise. The resolution is agreed to. SJR 718, the senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. HJR 748 is a companion resolution to a Senate resolution previously passed celebrating the life of O. Beverly Roller, who was a House of Delegates member from Augusta County. I move the resolution pass.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the resolution will please rise. The resolution is agreed to. On page 36, HJR 741, Senator from Northern Chesapeake.
Mr. President, as previously stated.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the resolution will please rise. The resolution is agreed to. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would now move that all the commending resolutions on pages 37 through 44 of the calendar, including House Joint Resolution 631 through Senate Resolution 120, be agreed to in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolution. Any senator who desires to remove a commending resolution from the block should please do so after the clerk has read the number of that resolution.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the commending resolutions on pages 37 through 44, HJR 631 through SR 120, be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will please read the numbers of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 631, Senate Joint Resolution 315.
Mr. President.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Could Senate Joint Resolution 315 come out of the block and go by for the day?
Without objection, SJR 315 will come out of the block and by for the day.
House Joint Resolution 626, 662, 663, 664, 665, 666, 681, 681, 683, 721, 722, 726, 727, 730, 732, 733, 734, 735, 736, 737, 738, 742, 743, 747, 751, 752.
Mr. President.
Yes, the senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can HJR 751 and 52 come out of the block and go by for the day, please?
Without objection, HJR 751 and 752 will come out of the block and by for the day.
753, 754,
Mr. President,
Senior Senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
could House Resolution 754 come out of the block and by for the day?
Without objection, HJR 754 will come out of the block and by for the day.
755, 756, 757, 758, 759, 760, 761, 768, 769, 770, 771, 772, 773, 778, 813, Senate Joint Resolutions 318, 320, 322, 323, 324.
The Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Mr. President, thank you. I would ask that Senate Joint Resolution 323 come out of the block and by for the day.
Without objection, SJR 323 will come out of the block and by for the day.
324, 325, 326, 328, 329, 330, 332, 333, 334, 335, 336, 339, 341, Senate Resolutions 106, 107, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The question is, shall the resolutions be agreed to? That is all except for SJR 315 and SJR 323 and HJR 751, 752, and 754. All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions are agreed to. The Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, inquire of the clerk, does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, the clerk will please report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Thursday, January 26, the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment, Senate Room B. Education and Health Subcommittee on Public Education will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment, 3rd floor East Conference Room, Senators Carrico, Donovan, Howell, Locke, and Peake. The Finance Subcommittee on Education will meet at 3 p.m., 10th floor Conference Room, Senators Norman, Newman, Howell, Saslaw, Hanger, Ruff, and Donovan. The Joint Transportation Subcommittee on Property Carrier Bills will meet at 4 p.m., Senate Room 1, Senators Carrico, Newman, and Favola. The Virginia Legislative Black Caucus will meet at 5 p.m., 6th floor, Senate Leadership Conference Room. Tomorrow, Friday, January 27th, the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services will meet at 7 a.m. in Senate Room B. This is a change. 7 a.m. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Certificate of Public Need will meet at 7:30 a.m. in Senate Room A. Senators Newman, Saslaw, Lucas, Barker, Cosgrove, Donovan, Chase, and Suderline. The Finance Subcommittee on General Government Technology will meet at 8 a.m., 10th floor Conference Room. Senators Vogel, Hanger, Lucas, McDougal, Obenshain, and Dance. The Finance Subcommittee on Claims will meet at 9 a.m., 10th floor Conference Room. Senators Carrico, Lucas, Vogel, Obenshain, and Barker. The Republican Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. And when we do so in memory of our friend and former delegate Johnny S. Joanno.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, and that when we do so in memory of Delegate Johnny S. Joanno. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned until 10:30 a.m. tomorrow.